Senator Kiffmeyer, Senate File 1416. Whenever you're ready, welcome to our committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very glad to be with you today. The bill you have in front of you, Senate File 1416, is not unfamiliar to you. I made a significant presentation when I first introduced the bill last year, especially in regards to the harmful effects of springing forward and falling back. So my effort has been in recognizing those public health and public safety issues that are well documented. How can we stop the flip? So flipping back and forth is hard on our bodies. So the question is, how could we stay in the same time all year round? Last year, I tried the approach which federal law allows us to do, standard time year-round. However, Minnesotans weighed in on that. They definitely want to stop the flip, but they also like their daylight saving time. The one benefit of putting up with Minnesota winters is you get to look forward to the best, Minnesota summers. And the daylight in the evening is much more beneficial to them overall than anything else. So my original bill actually had us going to advanced standard time year-round when the federal government would make that decision. We are not the only state, by the way, that is considering this. There are other states as well, and there's a federal bill authored by Senator Marco Rubio from Florida called the Sunshine Act, which would have the federal government move to advanced standard time as the basis, all right? So what my bill and my amendment today would do is place us on a course that should the federal government pass that act and have it signed into law, Minnesota would then conform and we would have daylight saving time year-round. So we would stop the flipping spring and fall, but we would also have daylight saving time year-round. This does have us in a position of waiting for the federal government to take an action, but other states are doing the same thing. They're recognizing where we are at today. So with that, my amendment puts us on course to that as well. So, Mr. Chair, my amendment at this time, your A5 amendment, would establish that policy in Minnesota state government.
Okay, Senator Kiffmeyer's A5 amendment needs to be moved. Is there somebody to move? Senator Ralph moves the A5 amendment. This is the author's amendment? Yeah. So, members, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is moved. We're working off of the A5 DE. Senator Kiffmeyer, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I think after a year of taking input from all across Minnesota, I think this bill is ready for being moved on.
Okay, members, any questions on the bill? Yes, Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Kiffmeyer, when do you expect or have you had any confirmation or any conversation with the federal government or with the author of the bill that you've just described, Marco Rubio? Any idea of or thoughts of how that might move along on the federal level?
Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Anderson and members. I don't have an exact time. The last I heard is that it is waiting for action in a committee there as well, but I have no definite time.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The one concern I would have is that we're going to put children waiting for buses in the dark in the morning. Do you have any concerns about that or thoughts?
Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Clausen and members. So right now, Minnesota children are in the dark when they get on the bus in the morning. And so as parents and everybody else goes through this process, they will adjust and it will become the advantage of the daylight saving time year-round will be something that Minnesotans have adjusted to standard time, but they get on the bus in the dark right now. So I think they will be able to adjust to this as well, remembering that in the evening, the children will have that hour of daylight moves to the evening, so all the sports, all the games, all the family activities, all the things that Minnesotans enjoy so very much will be there for them in the summertime.
Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair. Thank you. That is true. We do have some children that are getting on the buses in the morning in the dark, but I think this is going to put more of those students getting on buses in the dark. And usually a lot of school districts have older children that get on the buses in the earlier time, and we'll have younger kids standing out there in the dark. So that is a concern that I would have. And I think the daylight, as far as sporting events, the schools, you know, in the winter, it's not going to be affected really. And the way that daylight saving time works now, we're getting those hours already in the summer. But those are some of the concerns I have. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Clausen. I think we're all concerned about that. Senator Kiffmeyer, what are some of the health issues? From last year, it seemed like there were some positive health issues that this would help. Can you briefly go over those?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, the incidence of heart attacks goes up dramatically during springing forward and falling back. Accidents also increase. Even pets are affected by the 1 hour change. About every facet of your life. Asthmatic attacks, these are documented things that affect all ages, seniors, dogs, pets, everybody around, and that the biorhythm that we have, when you do that, dramatic 1 hour immediate in one day, reminding us all that regularly as the sun moves, we have a gradual change of daylight and sunlight that goes on in a natural way, but it's very, very slow and very, very gradual. But this dramatic 1 hour change in one day, as I presented you before, are very significant. And so, but going to standard time year-round is not an option because of federal law. Daylight saving time is also not an option. That's what I meant. At standard time is an option year-round, but people don't like that because they lose that hour of daylight in the evening in the spring, summer, and fall. So I've heard from Minnesotans who have spoke very well about wanting daylight saving time. And just to let you know, I've gotten emails from across the state of Minnesota. I have not heard from a single parent who raised the issue to me, and largely these were regular citizens and people in that regard that raised the issue of getting on the school bus in the morning. So I think most people have already adapted to that during the winter months, and I think the public health and public safety issues that come with this 1 hour change in the spring and the fall, that seems to upset people more than anything, and the only way we can get to having that consistent year-round time with a gentle movement that the sun gives us in the daylight and how that shifts is by adapting to daylight saving time when the federal government should pass that.
Thank you, Senator Kiffmeyer. I will say that my children who have my grandchildren would really like this because the grandchildren are just disrupted, and she can see in their attitudes for about 3 days they have to adjust to it. So thank you for the bill. Yes, Senator.
Mr. Chair, Senator Jasinski may have had his hand up before me.
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Kiffmeyer. Do you know what our neighboring states are considering on this topic? I'm just curious as to if this was enacted, what potential issue there might be with different times on the border, as well as in Canada.
Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator Uyghur and members. I don't have the exact list right here of what each state does, but most people, as they work and live, have a pattern of life, even on the edges of our state, on the border cities. And so I will have that, get that information for you. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared for that today.
Senator Kiffmeyer, it is true, though, that when this goes into effect, it's only when the federal government makes the major change for the whole country.
Mr. Chairman and members, there are other states that are introducing bills to go to daylight saving time year-round when the federal government does. We're not the only state doing that. There are a variety of states, but exactly how our neighboring states, we'll have to make a request to each of the states again alongside of us. But most of us, as we know, we live in the time zone where we live, and that's our greatest effect. And the neighboring states, I will check into that and also see if there's any activity on them looking to do the same thing, making a change. I'll do that.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If there's no discussion, I'd just like to move the bill.
Seeing no discussion, Senator Jasinski moves Senate File 1416 as amended, and it would go to general orders. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members.